Welcome back to Glamour Unfiltered, hosted by me, Josh Smith. And today we're joined by my babe and also the star of Lovecraft Country. It's Jurnee Smollett! We're going to be serving some piping hot tea today, aren't we? Because let's get real. The tea you have brewed in Lovecraft Country, when I watched it, I was like, this is going to be a really nice, like, period drama, like, loving it. Obviously going to be a bit gritty, and then you're like, bam, monsters, bam, sci-fi, bam. But, like, for you, when you first got this, what did you think?
Oh my gosh, for one, I was just so excited when I got it. And I'm such a fan of sci-fi and horror and thriller, you know? Since I was young. I remember seeing Silence of the Lambs and being terrified when I was 10 years old of Hannibal Lecter, but loving it, you know? But felt most of my career that I was just kind of shut out from the genre because so often we are written as, like, you know, the black chick that's killed in the first act. As an artist, it's just not very satisfying to play those roles. And so that's why, for so many reasons, I just had to be a part of it.
Yeah. I think it's so powerful what you're saying about the fact that there was so many doors probably closed to you before you got to this place where you could play a role like this. What do you think have been some of the most triggering hurdles that have obviously shaped you along the way to get to this point in your career?
Art is powerful. Representation matters. And where we are as an industry for women of all kinds is abysmal, you know, but particularly for women, Black and brown women, women of color, me and my peers, you know, we all have very similar hurdles just in having access to equal opportunity, having access to rich stories, to women who are written in a way in which you're not just the girlfriend, you're not just there to help push his plot point out, you know, to have characters in which they're living, breathing, flesh human beings who have desires, who are flawed, who have strengths but also weaknesses, who do very questionable things, who aren't always the, you know, best person, or, you know, who have these different dynamics, these contradictions. It's so rare that you get access to scripts that are written that way. And I think a lot of the problem has to do with the fact that women of color have been shut out so much from the storytelling process. According to the Annenberg Institute, something like over 1,300 films from 2007 to 2019, you know, of the 1,300 films, only 1% were directed by women of color. Think about that. 1% of all women of color, mind you. There's just a lot of work we have to do, but I'm so encouraged because we're in a point in the industry where there are so many amazing voices, like a Misha Green, like a Gina Prince Bythewood, like an Ava DuVernay, these really powerful storytellers who are reimagining these genres and these stories and centering Black voices. And so it's a very encouraging time for me because there are so many fierce storytellers.
Because I watched it just after the first episode, I watched it just after George Floyd was killed. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really timely. Like, this is the kind of stuff we need on our screens right now. But the thing is, it's like, it is timely, but it's overdue. Like, we needed this and it would have been timely 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. Like, it's this whole discussion about this is a timely piece is actually kind of redundant because we've needed this before. How seen have you felt going through your career? And, like, because for instance, like, the question is always, did you feel seen growing up, right? But do you feel seen as an adult woman?
I think if you are Black and female, you know, the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. I have battled this erasure of the Black female voice in art my entire career, you know. But I do agree with what you're saying. You know, Lovecraft is so incredibly timely, but when would it have not been timely? You know, if it was released on any week of any month of any year since 1619, the themes explored in our show would be timely, you know. I think art is so powerful. I think art has the power to shift culture. And I don't think you can see real change affected on a policy level, on a political level, without first shifting culture. And our siblings of all kind, you know, we have to use our voice for them, because if not now, when, you know?
For me, I was watching it and I was thinking about, you know, the cafe scene when you first go in the first episode, and the racial discrimination you face on a daily level as that character is so extreme, but also the systematic levels of it, the levels of that oppression are so extreme as well. For you, what kind of everyday racism do you still have to come up against?
You know, my family and I come from a very big, close family, but there were times in which we were the only Black family in the neighborhood. You know, my mom being Black, my dad being Jewish. I remember a fish being put on our lawn the morning of the Million Man March. And I was a kid, but that's something that, you know, forever will stay in your head. I remember our car being keyed with the N-word. I remember my mom being called it. I remember, you know, soda cans being thrown at me and my siblings when we were out jogging. You know, these are things memories that you put into your art. You know, in approaching Letty, I went back and did a lot of research, and one thing you discover is this feeling that I felt growing up of feeling displaced is not new. You know, James Baldwin talks about the shock that you experience as a Black American. This is your birthplace, and yet this nation has not evolved a place for you. And how isolating that is, how lonely that is, you know. And so as an artist, when I take on a project like Lovecraft, it's incredibly cathartic because I can pour these memories into it.
Yeah. And I think as well, do you think that doing that and pouring that trauma that you personally face and your ancestors face and putting that onto the screen takes on a new meaning now that you're a mother as well?
Absolutely. I wasn't a mother when Trayvon Martin was killed, but I do remember the feeling of connecting to Sabrina, you know, and the pain I felt that as a mother, she has to bury her child, right? You know, I know what it's like to witness a family member, a brother, a friend put in the back of a police car. I know what it's like to be put in the back of a police car for no reason, and harassed. You know, these are things that I'm aware of, and so it's not lost upon me that I am raising a Black son in America. And while I bust my ass, you know, to be able to provide him a life, to protect him, you cannot buy yourself out of oppression. You cannot buy yourself out of racism. It's just not possible. You will not be immune. I work with, you know, people on the front lines and try to assist in the movement in any way I can, because I'm fueled as a Black mom to hope that we can change our world so that my son doesn't have to experience those things. He should not have to. You know, when my white female counterparts, you know, she's not gonna have to have the same talks with her son that I will have to.
The level of like racial exclusion, but also gender exclusion you have to face like every day. So it's like this character has to face not only a racial discrimination, but a gender discrimination.
The patriarchy benefits from white supremacy, and white supremacy benefits from the patriarchy. One cannot exist without the other. They feed the other. Being someone who lives at the intersection of multiple identities, it's atrocious, you know? As Black women, we're the spine of this nation, okay? Like, we're the backbone of this nation. This nation was built upon our backs. We birthed it, okay? And so I take such pride in the queens that I stand upon. You know, I come from royalty. And my grandmother raised 4 children as a single mom. She was the first Black Miss Galveston, beautiful woman, and went to work every single day to clean the homes of white folks. And she would do her hair, and she would press out her dress. And the dignity that she had in approaching her work, in spite of the fact that they mistreated her, they underpaid her, they neglected her and abused her, it's something that's always stuck with me. is that there is power in that. It's so radical to just not allow society to rob you of your dignity. To say, I am not of lesser value just because you can't see my work. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And I think as well, it must have been so incredible to be on this set, have this incredible group of people around you, because I mean, you go through it. You're not, you put everything on that screen and more, mentally, physically. From going on this adventure, what do you think you've learned about yourself?
You know, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a deeper level of resilience. This project required so much of me. It cost me a lot. But, you know, it was necessary. It was very cathartic. You know, there was a lot of pain that I was able to pour into this. You know, sometimes you set these limits on yourself of like, I could never do that, or I could never get past that. And then you do. And life goes on. I'm still here. I survived.
You are, honey.
We as women also, we put such pressure on ourselves to do it all and be it all. And I did also learn that, you know, about myself, just the levels of pressure I was putting myself on. Like I was still nursing Hunter through the entire season of Lovecraft. I know, you know, it's just like, I had this real expectation of myself of, you know, what it meant to be a working mom, what it meant to be an artist. And I think I've learned through this process that I had to ease up a little bit on these standards I had set, especially in my motherhood, you know, that some of it was a little unrealistic, and I was killing myself, you know, trying to do it all instead of having grace upon myself and being kind to myself. And I realized that trying to kill myself was going to serve no one, you know, it was make me a better mom. It didn't, you know, I was suffering from mom guilt throughout the entire process of like, oh my gosh, I'm nursing him, but I gotta go and I gotta go do this scene and I've been gone for hours. And
it doesn't service you in any way.
No.
You've got to be your own ally and warrior in any given situation, right?
Yeah, and I was honestly being my worst critic, unfortunately.
If you could sit the you down, who was on this Zoom call and she was just about to go out into her career to pursue acting, what would you want to say to her? What kind of advice would you want to give the younger you?
Don't ask for permission. Own your power and be kind to yourself.
Yes. That is the tea, Jurnee.